You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. How are you today? It's another gloomy morning here in East Greenbush, New York, upstate. We, as you know, we're the first streaming and probably still the only live streaming sports webcast here in East Greenbush. We hang our hat on here. I hope you guys are safe wherever you are today with the weather coming up the East Coast. I know the Yankee game has been postponed, I believe. We'll talk more about that this morning. But be safe wherever you are. A lot of rain, a lot of wind. You can't take these things too seriously, even when they've been downgraded a bit as they've been. So be safe. Right off the top, I want to again thank all of the groups that will allow me to share this to them today and continue to support the show. Please like and share. It's always appreciated. So today, guys, we got a lot to talk about. First, let me thank my guest from Friday, Shane Matthews, former two-time SEC Player of the Year for the Florida Gators. Steve Spurrier's first starting quarterback there. Had a very long and mostly good NFL career, mostly with the Bears and the Redskins. He got most of his playing time. We had a nice conversation about his career and Coach Spurrier and a lot of other topics we covered too. A lot of the realignment stuff. We covered a lot of stuff. So thanks to him. I'll let you know that on next Friday on our interview show, we'll have Philip Bosch. Philip Bosch is, and Dr. Paul might know of this book, Dog Days, which I finally got a copy of. I tried forever to get it on Kindle, and I guess it wasn't going to happen. It's basically the story of the New York Yankees' fall from grace and return to glory. Covers 1964 to 1976. It's a huge era in my lifetime. It's when I was coming to age and knowing about baseball in the late 60s, early 70s. And, you know, the Yankees were up against it with the Orioles dynasty and just not having quite enough to get over the top. But it's a great book, and we're going to have a great conversation about that era with Phil on Friday. And then, of course, don't forget the college football huddle, TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Gosh, a lot to cover today, too, guys. As I said, we'll be talking about the new show starting on Northeast Streaming Sports, I believe on YouTube exclusively, but we'll talk to Dr. Paul and Dr. E.J. Fagan about that in a few minutes. Their show will be to start spreading the news. And again, I believe that'll be on Monday nights. And I didn't jot the time down, but I think it was 8 p.m. But we'll verify that for you as well. We'll talk to them about the show, their backgrounds, a little bit about the Yankees today, and see what else we might cover. I'll talk more about the Major League Baseball. We've got a little bit of college football news and some NFL news, obviously. And then Mark Mancini from Mancini Sports will join us at about 10:25, and we're going to dive deep into the NFC races this year, and we'll talk about the quarterback situations on every team and maybe some coaches on the hot seat, and we'll see what goes on there. So good morning, Rick Sherlock. How are you today? You beat Dave Guyette to at least the good morning. I hope Dave's here today. Dave's a big Yankee fan, so I hope he's here. So I guess what we'll do, I see Dr. Paul is here, so we're going to bring him in. And when EJ arrives, actually, good morning, Bill Pulver. Hope we didn't have too hard a night last night, Bill. I'm expecting big things out of you today. I kid. Anyway, with that, let's bring in Dr. Paul Semendinger. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, Keith. How you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you. We've done a couple things on the Mac and Jack show, I know, and I try to catch you whenever I can on their show. And as I said, you're going to be starting a new endeavor of your own with Dr. E.J. Fagan. Start spreading the news on Northeast Streaming Sports, I believe exclusively on the YouTube channel that we have, correct?
That is correct. I think it's also on iHeartRadio and Spotify and Pandora and iTunes and that kind of stuff. But definitely, I think it's a YouTube exclusive. Yes.
Yeah, as far
Otherwise,
as
not counting those other things. However that works, I'm not quite sure.
yeah, I guess I was referring to kind of the video portion where we go live to Facebook and YouTube. We have channels on both of those, but we do go to all of the audio podcast affiliates pretty much. I think there's one missing. I don't even want to guess at which one it is, but there are, guys, there's no lack of ways to reach out and hear any of the Northeast Streaming Sports content, and most specifically to this conversation, start spreading the news. Paul, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to this point of having this show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Oh, great. Thanks. I think people are aware, if they know me, that I'm the editor-in-chief of the Start Spreading the News Yankees blog. And that's been in existence for almost 5 years already, I believe. And, you know, we've had millions of page views. It's become very popular. And, you know, over the years, you just get into communication and contact with all sorts of people. And as you referred to, I've been a frequent guest on the Mac and Jack show. I'm usually there Saturday mornings with the debate show and facilitating their discussions and arguments and offering my own perspectives. And they reached out to me at the New England Northeast Streaming Sports Network and said, you know, I think it's time that we got a show for Start Spreading the News that you could do. And EJ Fagan, who is going to do it with me, is the person who runs the Bronx Beat podcast. And that's been going on for maybe 8 to 10 years. It's very popular as well. And I'm a frequent guest there. And I said to EJ, since I'm going to be doing something on this format, how would you like to join me? And so he jumped right in. So we'll be doing that. Our first show is going to be on Monday, August 30th. And you are right. Originally, it was going to be an 8 p.m. show, but you know, like so many people, we're very busy. I'm an elementary school principal. I'm also a adjunct college professor, and my college teaching schedule came out. And my last class, or actually, I have a class on Monday night, and it ends at 7:45, which would make an 8 p.m. start for the program impossible. So we moved it to 9.
What do you do with your free time, Paul?
I run, I play baseball, and spend time with my family and write about the Yankees.
I did want to mention that you were playing in the I'm assuming a playoff tournament, and it is a baseball league, I assume. And you guys had a tough loss last week. I understand you pitched very well yourself, and I'm sorry you did not make it to the championship game. I'm happy that it means you're here with us today, but I'm sorry that you did not advance to the.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we had we were in the playoffs last Sunday, and we lost. The guy who pitched against us, we play 9-inning games. I think he struck out 18 or 19 of us. This guy, you have to. It's a 35 and older league, and I don't know. I think we need to go check his birth certificate or something. If he's 35, he was just 35. It might have been his birthday, but boy, was he good. He threw hard. He threw curveballs, and he threw hard. And we didn't have much of a chance against him. So I actually pitched very well the first 3 innings, and then I had a bad 4th inning. I gave up 5 runs, I believe. It was ugly. But it wouldn't have mattered. We couldn't touch this guy. I could have given up no runs, and I think we wouldn't have had a chance. He was just unbelievable.
I think in another year or so, I'll be eligible to play in that league. So maybe in a few years, you'll be able to split me in 2 and I can play twice.
Nice.
Oh, gosh. Tell us about how did you become a Yankee, such a Yankee historian? And you know, obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the Yankees. I know from watching you and being on a show we did about the 70 championship teams. Tell us about how did you become a Yankee fan? It's always interesting to me because I know how I became one. And tell us about that.
All right. So I came of age with the Yankees in the summer of 1977. And, you know, I think there were a lot of reasons why I gravitated to the Yankees. My dad, believe it or not, is a huge Red Sox fan and a huge baseball fan. He loves baseball. What I love is the Yankees. And so we've, in our lifetimes, have had lots of conversations. I remember once going to a ball game at Yankee Stadium with my dad. And it was a great, great, great game, back and forth. But in the end, the Yankees lost. And I remember my dad saying that was a great, great baseball game. And I said, no, it wasn't. It was terrible. He goes, it was fun. It was exciting. I said, it was exciting, but it was terrible. The Yankees lost. He goes, no, you have to appreciate the game of baseball. I said, I don't appreciate the game of baseball. I just want the Yankees to win. And so it was that summer. There were these twins who lived across the street from me. It was also I was 8 and 9 years old in the summer of 1977, and Happy Days was a big show. And these neighbors across the street were, to me, as cool as Fonzie. They were just the greatest, and they were big Yankee fans. So I think that probably influenced me a little bit in following the Yankees. But it all came to fruition on that wonderful night in October when Reggie hit those 3 home runs. And I've told this story before. My mom and dad were both teachers, and it was my dad's back to school night. So he wasn't home. I was watching the World Series with my mom, and Reggie had already hit 2 of the home runs, and it was getting late. I was only 9 at that point. I had school the next day, and my dad came home and he said, I'm glad the Yankees are winning, but it's time for Paulie to go to bed. And my mom said, the Yankees are going to win the World Series. Let them stay up. So I stayed up, and it was the first time in my life once the Yankees clinched it and they were jumping around that tears of joy streamed down my face. And I never had experienced that tears could come when you were happy. And then, I was just thrilled. And at that point I was hooked forever.
It's funny you bring that up about being able to stay up because, relatively speaking, the games didn't end very late back in 1977, right?
That's correct. That's true.
Your mom might agreed and said, send them to bed because the game's got to go on until 1 o'clock in the morning. So. Correct.
It was probably 9 o'clock or something. I went to bed early.
It's funny. So, again, by the way, the Start Spreading the News blog is very good, guys. Get out, and if you're not a I guess subscriber, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but if you're not, please do that. And if you're not a subscriber to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, please get out and do that as well, because all the content that you see on Facebook and other outlets is also available there. And there's going to be, as we are talking about with Start Spreading the News, and last week our conversation with Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat, their show, J&B Talking Shop, will also exclusively be aired on the YouTube channel and the podcast channels that we chatted about earlier as well. As we wait to see if EJ does join us, Paul, I don't know if he will or not, because I didn't get a response from him, but that's fine. Let's talk a little bit about today's well, let's talk about the show itself. Are you going to be Yankee-centric exclusively, or will you branch out into more baseball topics in general?
Yeah, we're going to be primarily Yankee specific. You can't not talk about other things related to baseball, right. But just like the blog is, I would say 95% Yankees. We do touch on other things. We have other stories. We do other features about the history of the game and great players and statistics and things like that. But it's primarily a Yankees blog, and the program will be primarily focused on the Yankees.
Excellent. You're right. And there's also no lack of content to talk about with the Yankees. It isn't like you got to look to fill time. I could fill every show talking about the Yankees if I wanted to. And some of my viewers will start to chastise me. They're like, there's other teams and sports out there. But
on the Mac and Jack show, Mac used to start off each Saturday with Yankees trivia. And he didn't like the fact, I think, that we were getting them all correct. And so he's now going to baseball trivia. And I'm pretty good at baseball trivia, but I know the Yankees. I'm a Yankee fan. It's like, that's what I do. That's what I care about, as I talked about before. Yeah. So when you get into more general baseball trivia and things like that, I know it, but I don't know it like I know the Yankees. So you also have to stay with what you're comfortable with, right? And what you know the best.
Mac comes up with some pretty good questions, I have to say. When I've been involved, sometimes when I filled in for Jack here and there as a guest host, and I don't know that I've ever gotten one right. And I feel like I'm pretty good at trivia as well, and knowledge in general when it comes to sports. But he comes up with some good stuff. And I do have to give you some accolades, I guess. If you have to get in the middle of Mac and Jack on a Saturday during a debate show, you've earned your stripes, man, because it get rough sometimes with those.
I love them both. They're great.
I do too. I ride Jack a lot, but I like it. I have a lot of fun when I'm on Friday mornings, so it's a lot of fun with them. Let's talk about the Yankees. Let's talk about the Yankees today. Obviously, things have turned around unbelievable. I've been very, very hard on the Yankees all year on all my shows. I've done some vlogs really ripping basically Cashman and in turn Aaron Boone a little bit. Not as bad as Cashman, but Boone has some culpability in some of the struggles early on in my mind. I didn't feel the team was put together very well, with at the shortstop position, defensively, the Sanchez situation, the depth at the outfield. Well, things have turned around in the last 3 weeks. I mean, since they played Tampa Bay late in July, I believe they got to be like 21-5 at a minimum, 9 straight now. Do you think that this is for real, and this is the team that that is going to win in the playoffs? I still have my doubts about that part, but they're definitely a team that's going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to make the playoffs. There's the old baseball adage that you're never as good as when you're playing great. You're never as bad as when you're playing poorly. Yeah. I also have been down on the Yankees last year, the year before, this year. Yeah. I'm not a big Aaron. I think Aaron Boone's a nice guy. He seems like everybody loves him, and he's a great guy, and I wouldn't mind hanging out with him and talking baseball. I don't know if he's a great manager. So in difference to you, I've been harder on Boone than Cashman, but because I just sometimes feel that Cashman's hands are tied by the Steinbrenners. I don't know if this is the team that he wants, or if it's the team that he's forced to build based upon the fact that Steinbrenner doesn't let him exceed that luxury tax limit. Yeah. But they're both culpable, as you mentioned. And especially early in the season, up until this hot streak, the Yankees under Aaron Boone have been underwhelming. They haven't played good fundamental baseball. They don't take the extra base. They make very bad fundamental decisions. They throw to the wrong base. Except for that savages in the box period a couple of years ago, and the next man up thing, it's been a lackadaisical team. They're just without energy. But again, that all changed in early July with the trade deadline acquisitions, and it's interesting. And this is something that only time will play out. The Yankees have played better when a lot of these starters, their so-called stars, have been unable to play, and they've put other players in. The interesting thing about those other players is they're more athletic, right? And they play better brand of baseball, and the results have they've been winning. I wonder what's going to happen when, like, Gleyber Torres comes back. Does he, with his poor defense at short, all of a sudden have the Yankees revert back to what they were before he went away, got injured? It's going to be an interesting dynamic, and Boone's done a good job of managing his guys. His voice come back and was very obviously vocal about he should play. I have my problems with Luke Voit, and I think they're better off with Rizzo at first base. I think that's a big part of how their resurgence here. But I also think Velasquez and Wade and the way they played shortstop and just made the routine plays. That's all I care about. Make the routine plays and don't give away outs. And they've done that. Plus, and we saw it yesterday too, some very timely hitting, good situational hitting, which the Yankees have been very poor at for a long, long time, as you alluded to. And that's part of my problem with Boone too, as you mentioned. He's too nice a guy. I was so tired of watching him in post-game press conferences, excusing guys. The base running was one of my pet peeves, watching guys get thrown out at third base with 2 outs and during rallies. And that's the kind of thing that really irked me. So let me bring in EJ as I see he has arrived. So let's bring he's coming from Chicago. So sometimes he's
it was a late night last night.
That's what it's that's a little close up, but yeah, the way we can get us all in. EJ, welcome to the show. I had introduced Paul earlier, and he gave us a little bit of his background. We've been talking a little bit about the show and the Yankees so far this year. EJ, why don't you talk to us about your background a little bit and how you came to be it. Paul gave us his explanation. Let's see if it matches up and see if he gave me the right information.
Yeah, sure. So I currently, as I mentioned, lived in Chicago. I'm a little late because I got my time zones mixed up. But yeah, I'm a professor at the University of Illinois Chicago. Do political science. I actually came to social science through baseball. That is, I started writing about baseball analytics, baseball statistics. In fact, I read Moneyball and decided that I kind of like this. I like this stuff. I wanted to learn more. And many years later, now I'm doing it professionally, just not for baseball, just for social science. I started writing about baseball in 2005. I started a little blog. I was called Fire Joe Torre because I was a little punk 18-year-old kid in college, and I thought that I knew better than the manager of the Yankees, and so I wanted to fire him. Now, I'm the one saying we should not fire our manager on our podcast every day. Wrote about the Yankees for a long time in a whole bunch of different places. Eventually, worked on a blog called It's About the Money. Edited that blog. We decided to start a podcast called It's About the Money Podcast back in 2014. Eventually, I hired. I was looking for new writers, and I found Paul. Paul joined the podcast and the blog at the same time around 2017. And I moved on. I got a little burnt out from the blog. Handed it over to Paul, but kept doing the podcast. And now we've done 302 episodes. Now we're doing a video podcast. So it's a good. It's been a fun progression. It's been almost 10 years.
Awesome.
More than 10 years.
Welcome to both of you. Paul's been part of the family through his appearances with Mac and Jack, but welcome to Northeast Streaming Sports Network. And you guys are going to be a great addition. I know that. And I got to tell you, this is the first time I've had any doctors on the show. When I told my wife I had 2 doctors coming on today, she gave me a list of things to talk about. And I forgot to tell them that, you weren't like medical doctors.
Yes. So, yeah. The wrong kind of doctors.
Yeah. So actually, that's a good thing because we'll get to talk about the Yankees more, not my malady or my ailments. So EJ, we were just talking about this year's team and how I've been hard and Paul's been hard on the team, and we kind of were. I was much harder on Cashman, but not letting Boone off the hook. And he was kind of on the reverse side, harder on Boone and not as hard on Cashman. And I do agree, Boone's been too easy on players, and I'm tired of it. When you came on, I was talking about how I was tired of all the excuses in the post game about bad base running and need to be harder on these guys and start calling guys out. And Cashman, I didn't get a chance to comment, and Paul had talked about the fact that there were some restrictions put on by the Steinbrenners and whatnot with money, but this poorly constructed team isn't a new thing for Cashman. He's built the same types of teams year after year with iffy pitching and iffy defensive guys. And give us a little take on your take on this year's team, this hot streak, and whether we can expect it to carry through the playoffs, which is where we were going next.
Sure. Let me say a couple things. One, I'm with the blame on Steinbrenners. If you look at a lot of the other big budget teams in baseball, teams that are putting up in basically roughly the same budget range the Yankees have over the last 10 years, there's a lot of bad teams. You have a lot of losing teams who might be really good one year, but then be below 500 the next year. And Cashman has put together teams year after year that haven't done that. That even though they have some guys on big aging contracts, they'll have a Jacoby Ellsbury, or they'll have somebody who they really get nothing out of. Every year after year, they manage to make the playoffs, and they manage to show us interesting baseball in September. They're not winning World Series, but I don't think you can ask them to win frequent World Series, more than the background rate of these high budget teams, if you're not spending a ton more money than them. Back in the day, the Yankees were had double the budget of a lot of the teams they were competing against, and then now they have pretty close to the same budget. So I think look, they're making a lot of money. The Steinbrenners are making a ton of money on top of the revenue they're taking in. I think we should blame them for not spending like the Dodgers. And if we want them to be the Dodgers, they need to spend like the Dodgers. If you look at that Dodgers roster, there's just a lot more money on that roster. They have acquired wins through buying them. And maybe that's not good for baseball, but as a Yankee fan, it's good. It'd be good for us. And so I think I don't really blame Cashman kind of in the big picture. You look at some individual moves. But if you look at the roster right now, he's year after year kind of held it together with like duct tape and chewing gum, and I think that's something to be commended. For Aaron Boone, it's difficult. It's really hard for me to say, is this a good manager from the outside? The things that we claim Aaron Boone does well are stuff that none of us have any idea what's going on about, right? All the personal stuff, all of that. From the outside, he doesn't seem like a terrible strategic manager. I have some issues with his choices. He's made some kind of iffy bullpen decisions at points this season where I would wish he would have taken the veteran guy out a little bit sooner. But for the most part, nothing really glaringly stands out. Back when I was writing that Fire Joe Torre blog, I had stuff to talk about every game. Every game I could be like, God, come on, Scott Proctor. Like, come on. Like we can't throw that guy 105 innings and expect his arm not to fall off. Or I might say, why are you playing Bernie Williams in right field over, Melky Cabrera? Like those were strategic decisions that you should fire a manager for. I don't really see any of Aaron Boone stuff. For the post-game press conferences, what do you want him to say? Right? I mean, what is he going to be like? No, really, like, God, like Giancarlo Stanton, the guy's just not very good, right? Like he's not going to say that.
Well, I don't need to say that, but he can call guys out a little bit and say, even, and I don't feel like it's happening behind closed doors either. That's part of the problem as well. But.
He might, maybe not, and we don't really know that, but things turned around. He turned it around, and he's now got one of the best teams in baseball. So, maybe he should have been fired 2 months ago, but not right now. Right now, he's looking great.
No, I'm not looking to get him fired now for sure. I was a big proponent of bringing Buck in there about 2 months ago. I'll tell you, get Buck out of the studio and in the dugout, and I thought that would have been a good move at that point in time. Not now. We're playing well, and again, his strategic moves I don't have as big a problem with either. I just think the rein he has on these guys is a little loose. And I will challenge your Cashman comment just a little bit, because he hasn't always had these type of constraints, that the Steinbrenners have put on there. Yes, they're the Yankees. They should spend money. You go back to, let me finish my comment with Cashman. I mean, he's been to one World Series. He won it since 2003. You can't do that with the Yankees. It's just, and I don't know how he's kept his job for 20 years almost with being to one World Series. So that's my problem there. And to the thing about not spending money, I agree with you. I remember George Steinbrenner back in, it was in the 70s when free agent really exploded and how the Yankees had an advantage. And he said, look, if I wanted to be, it was during revenue sharing, I think. And when they were talking about revenue sharing, and he goes, look, if I wanted to buy the Kansas City Royals, I would have bought the Kansas City Royals. I bought the New York Yankees because I want to have the best team and be able to spend money to have the best team. So, I think you're right. They need to take the reins off the payroll, like the Dodgers and even the Red Sox in a way over the years, maybe not this year, but in other years, they have gone all in too. But don't do it like the Mets. Jeez, good grief.
Yeah.
Right. So,
the Mets, I think, are a great example. This is a team that can spend a whole bunch of money and a lot of things go wrong. And they don't have a plan B. They don't have the depth, the organization that I think that's Cashman's strength. Cashman's strength is that, you could lose your third baseman and there's a Gio Urshela waiting for that third baseman. Yeah. And that you don't build that. One, you don't build that overnight, right? That took a long time for the Yankees to build. And you also, there's not a lot of GMs that do that successfully. There are certainly teams that do, like the Athletics, the Dodgers, the A's, the Rays. They all do that. But I think you got to give Cashman credit for that. Maybe he needs a better assistant GM to help him with the big strategic moves, the big signings or whatever. But that I think there's a good argument there that he's had some struggles with over the years. But overall, hey, we're watching fun games in September every single year, and that to me is about all I can ask for.
Great. I'm looking at a couple comments here. Carlos has entered, so obviously I got a lot of comments backed up here. I'm sure Dr. Paul has dealt with Carlos a few times on a Saturday morning, and we love Carlos. Don't get me wrong; he's great. He's one of the best followers on a lot of shows on Northeast Streaming Sports, which he'll probably carry over to you guys, I'm sure.
Carlos, we'll see you on Mondays starting August 30th, 9 p.m.
Excellent. Right, Carlos. Don't forget, Carlos is Carlos has got some interesting opinions that I often disagree with. Every once in a while, we get a couple that I do agree on. Let me talk to you as I kind of look at some of these comments, and we'll bring them up before you guys are done here this morning. We started talking about this with Paul, and we'll get both of your guys' comments now. So, two things. This hot streak, nine game winning streak. I think 21 of the last 26, if I'm not mistaken. Can they catch the Rays, which I think is very important. That one game playoff, you want to stay away from that, obviously. And either way, is this team built to be able to win in the playoffs, which I still have my doubts about myself? I'll start with you, Paul.
I think it's going to be interesting. I was talking with some Yankee fans about this the other day. If the Yankees make it to like Game 7 of the American League Championship Series, all the Boone supporters will say, look what he did. He turned this team around. It was because of his leadership. It was because of the atmosphere he made around the team, and they made it this far. But if they then lose the playoffs because of poor managing, terrible decisions, bullpen like they did last year when they started Devi Garcia and then they went to J Happ, and it was just an absolute mess. And he burning out pitchers by pulling the starters too early and overusing the bullpen. He will also at the exact same time be the stereotype of why people dislike Aaron Boone and the mistakes he makes. And it'll make for a very interesting winter because he will have gotten the Yankees again to the playoffs, but have an inability, especially if he gets outmanaged in the playoffs, to get the Yankees to the World Series. And so in a general sense, yes, I think the team is talented enough. One thing we haven't given Aaron Boone and his staff credit for, but that they definitely deserve credit for, is one of the problems with Brian Cashman's reign as the GM has been the Yankees have not been able to develop pitchers. But this year, Jameson Taillon has been phenomenal, and he came with a big question mark, and he's a rock solid pitcher there. Nestor Cortez, I don't know how he's doing it, but he has been amazing. And so you take Cole and Taillon and Montgomery and Cortez and Loaizaga and Chad Green, not even counting Chapman or Britton, who seem to be on the downside. And that's a pitching staff, especially if Corey Kluber comes back. I do not believe Severino will come back and have any type of impact. But there's enough arms there. There's enough talent that they could get through. The Yankees pitching. We have an article coming today at 10 a.m. that talks about how great the Yankees pitching has been this year, one of the top staffs in baseball. So
Loaizaga has been a godsend for that bullpen. I think they've been big trouble without Loaizaga in there with some of the issues they've had throughout the season.
Yeah, and Luis Heel and things like that. So yeah, can the Yankees do it? They can. Hope they do. I mean, it's time. It's, as you said, one World Series since 2003. It's time. We need to get back there.
And listen, I am hard on the Yankees and have been for a couple of years, as you said you have been too, Paul. And it doesn't mean I don't want them to do well. That's why I'm as passionate as I am, because I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong.
Oh, we have a commenter who he disagrees with me oftentimes on the blog, and he says you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, and I'm like, I hope I am wrong. I don't want to be right when I say how terrible they are and what a bad job they're doing. I want you to be right, and I want the Yankees to win. Right. I'd rather have nothing to write about except they did it again. That'd be the best.
That'd be awesome and easy to read. Easy. What about your thoughts on the catching the Rays and the postseason for this team?
So catching the Rays, Fangraphs gives the Yankees a 32% chance of winning the division. To me, that seems a little low. I'd probably add 10 points to that, right? I don't think it's 50-50, but it's not that far from 50-50 the Yankees can catch the Rays. 4 games is a lot to make up. The Rays are a good team, but the Yankees are so hot right now. When you watch them put out that lineup of Giancarlo Stanton and Joey Gallo and Aaron Judge in an outfield, I call it the offensive line. When you put Luke Voit at first base, Anthony Rizzo, Luke Voit DH, Anthony Rizzo at first base. When you get your Torres back, when you get this lineup fully healthy, this is a deadly lineup. It is a lineup that we've been waiting for the Yankees to put out, year after year, and they keep adding players to it, and so it just keeps getting better. So I think the Yankees are gonna coast off of that lineup for the rest of the season. I think it's going to be really, really nice to watch. And the Yankees are playing the Rays very late in September. It's going to be 3 games to end the season.
Yeah.
gonna be one heck of a series, I think.
I wish it was 3 more games with him. That's what I wish it was 6 games with Rays and not 3.
I agree. I want the Yankees to play the Rays tomorrow, right? I mean, that's the team is just looking so good right now. When it comes to the playoffs, I think there's a couple of things. As Paul mentioned, starting pitching is so much better than last year. Last year, the Yankees had a great bullpen going into the playoffs and burned it out because they didn't have the starting pitching. This year, they have the starting pitching, but they don't have the bullpen, and that's the problem. I think the Yankees are not going to go deep in the playoffs if they don't figure out this bullpen. If they have Loaizaga, who's looking great, but he's pitched the most innings of any relief pitcher in major leagues. They have Chad Green, who is looking tired. Let's be honest here, right? Chad Green has been about a 4 ERA pitcher for some time now because he's 32 years old and is pitching way too many innings. Aroldis Chapman right now, I don't think anyone trusts him with any kind of lead.
Nope.
Zach Britton right now, I don't think he's looking very good, and he's also getting up there in age. I don't know if we have reason for him to turn around. They need to find 2 other guys. That might be Luis Gil. That might be a Luis Severino coming back from the shoulder injury. When we heard about all these second opinions on Luis Severino, Paul and I think we're talking like he's got to be gone, right? That's got to mean that he's going down for a surgery for the end of the season. And it turns out the second opinion said no, everything's okay. He just needs a little bit of rest. Now, as Paul said, I'm not counting on him as a starter at this point. Right? He's got to rehab that shoulder injury. He's got to build back up. I don't think the Yankees have time for that. I don't think they have the need for that right now. They have the starting pitching. I want to see Luis Severino throwing 100 miles an hour out of the bullpen for 1 inning at a time because that's what they need. They have someone to go 6 innings for the first 6 innings of the game, and someone like Corey Kluber is not going to be that guy out of the bullpen. I think Gil and Cortez will be a really interesting pair in the playoffs. I want to see Cortez go 4 innings twice through the order, and then Gil go 4 innings twice through the order. And those 2 guys, I think, could be the difference between losing the ALDS and losing in the ALCS. The last thing I'll say is it is more important than ever that they win the division because you want to see 2 games out of Garrett Cole in a division series. They need that. Given the way this bullpen goes, they're not going to be able to piece together 7 innings out of the bullpen in 1 game and it'd be a good result. They need 2 games of Garrett Cole being 15 strikeout, 8 inning elite Garrett Cole, especially in a game 5. And if they have to use him in a wild card game, then they burn him until game 3 of the series.
Well, the thing is too, not knowing ahead of time what the schedule is going to be, but they end with 3 big games with the Rays.
Yeah.
It's possible he'll be pitching in that 3-game series, and he won't be available for a wild card game either, which would be really bad news. But Italian, of course, would be available. He is pitching great. He's pitched great the last 2 months, so that's been a big lift for the Yankees as well. I was looking at a couple of let's go back real quick before I let you guys go, because we did talk about we'll throw one of Mac's trivia questions at you there, Dr. Paul and Dr. EJ. So there were 4 5-time Gold Glove winners, and Mattingly won 9. So who were the other 3?
See the Yankees?
I believe that's his question.
Mike Messina.
I think Guidry won a whole bunch.
Guidry and Messina would be good picks.
I think Bernie won 4. Did he win 5? I don't know. He won a bunch.
I want to say Nettles, but I know he only won 2 because Brooks Robinson. I always want to say Greg Nettles won 10, but he only won 2.
Yeah, you two are the old guys.
You know what? Bobby Shantz. I think Bobby Shantz won a whole bunch of Gold Gloves early on.
Knowing Mac, there's got to be somebody going back to like the 40s. So how about Jim DiMaggio? Was he not winning Gold Gloves?
I don't think they had the Gold Glove.
Back then?
I don't think so.
That only came about after that, right? I'm going to go with Guidry, Messina, and boy,
I'm going with Bernie.
I'll say Willie Randolph.
Okay.
I'm going with Bob, and I think Willie didn't get as many because of Frank White.
That's a good point too. But I got to throw somebody out there, so I'll say what about Thurman?
I think Thurman only won a couple too, because Fisk won some, and
I'll stick with my 3. Let's see if Mac's still here and gives us the answer before we have to head off with you guys here. Oh, here's the answer. Bobby Richardson, I forgot about.
Gino won 5.
Jeter won 5.
I remember when he won the first one, and I was a little cross-eyed at the time.
Well, I love Derek Jeter to death, as I'm sure you guys do. But his fielding was always a bit overrated. But
I'm looking at Bobby Shantz. I want to see how many Gold Gloves he won. He maybe won them with the A's. Let's see. 8 Gold Gloves. 8 Gold Gloves. Bobby Shantz.
Okay, so old
maybe
guys,
not with the Yankees though. Let's see.
Old guys, tell me, who is Bobby Shantz?
he was a pitcher. He was actually the MVP in 1952. He went 24-7 for the A's.
I gotta back up for a second. Did EJ say old guys tell me the answer?
Yeah. Sorry. As a ripe old 34-year-old, I gotta call old people when I see them.
All right, Bobby Shantz only won 4 of those 8 with the Yankees. Darn it.
We're close. All right, good. Another good question from Mackey's. Very good at that. Well, before I let you guys go here, I'm looking forward to the show. I think you guys are starting at a great time because it's obviously going to be a great month of September and hopefully a great month of October as well. So that's a built-in plus for people to tune into the show. We'll certainly promote it through TGI Sports Talk as Mac is on Northeast Streaming Sports. Any closing thoughts you guys have about the Yankees or the show that you guys have coming up? Go ahead, Paul.
All right, so I'm looking forward to the show. I'm looking forward to working with Mac in the background and EJ. As we said, EJ and I have been working together now for a long, long time, starting with the It's About the Money, and then It's About the Money became Start Spreading the News, and then the Bronx Beat podcast. I think a lot of times the show is just an opportunity for a couple of people to talk sports. Yeah. EJ and I look at the Yankees similarly, but we often don't agree on a lot of things. We both love the Yankees. We enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy talking baseball. And I think it's going to be an interesting and fun and exciting program. And it's going to be, as you mentioned, the best time to talk about it. We're going to be talking pennant race Yankee baseball, and then hopefully playoff and World Series Yankee baseball, at least into October. And then the winter, we could talk all about the hot stove and Yankees history and the mistakes, hopefully there are none, that the Yankees made, and how we can make sure that the new dynasty is beginning.
Awesome. And you, EJ?
I'm just saying this is going to be one heck of a stretch run. I have not been this excited to watch the Yankees since they called up Aaron Judge and Tyler Austin at the time. And I love this team, and I'm looking forward to watching that big offensive line hit a whole bunch of home runs when everybody's healthy in the outfield, and it's going to be a fun 6 weeks.
Well, we'll be looking forward to the show. I will say the next time I'm on a show with EJ, I'm going to bring Jack on so that I'm not the old guy on the.
You do that. We can talk about the 30s. We're
talking about Jack. We love Jack. All right, guys. I appreciate it. Everybody tune into Start Spreading the News on starting August 30th at 9 p.m., correct? 9 p.m. now, Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, and then you can catch it, obviously, on all the podcast outlets, as Paul had said earlier. So thanks, guys, for coming in this morning.
Keith, great to be with you. Always. Thanks.
We'll have you on again, and I'm looking forward to the show.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye. Oh, so great stuff there, guys. A new show starting on Northeast Streaming Sports. Please, guys, tune in. Let me just catch up. What did Schmidt, Kluber, Herman coming back is not enough. Well, it will be Carlos, if they're healthy. Kluber, you cannot say Kluber's not a huge addition if he's healthy. Problem is he going to stay healthy? Huge. Mac, thanks for coming in this morning. Hey, Mac, I hope you're having some fun today. Give me a look. Yeah, I forgot what you were doing. I know you were out at an event for a really good cause, and I would love to promote that. I didn't have a chance to do it on the show, so if you want to send me something, I'll be glad to do it. And if there's a way to donate online, we can. Whoa, check that out, guys. I just sent my microphone flying. New technical difficulties today. That's what happens when you got to be playing with stuff all the time. Good grief. Bear with me. So, Mac, if you got some information to send me, please do it. It may be on the page, and I meant to share it, and I've been so busy. Let's see what he's got here. Dreambride.org. Okay, guys, great event that Mac is at this weekend. That's why his show's not on, the Mac and Jack show. So you could catch them now Thursdays through Sundays, actually, at 8 a.m. Eastern time on Northeast Streaming Sports and the Mac and Jack page. So great stuff. Looking forward to Paul and EJ's show, Dr. Paul and Dr. EJ. Thanks for not bringing up any of your maladies. As I was going to do. Just kidding. Let's jump into a little bit more baseball while we're talking about it. We've obviously bear with me, guys. We've obviously exhausted our Yankee talk for the day. A little bit of news around the league. Interesting, Lindor has come out. Earlier in the season, I had a problem with Francisco Lindor, and maybe I should wait till I get to the National League East to talk about this. But Lindor came out and said that everything Steve Cohen had a little Steinbrenner-ish. Yeah, I remember YouTube only. I did mention that a couple of times, Mac, and the fact that the show would also be on the podcast channels. If that's wrong, let me know, because Paul had said that to me. That's why I added that to my conversation. I'm assuming they're on the podcast channels. It will not be live on Facebook. So Cohen had a little bit of a Steinbrenner moment this week, calling out the team for their horrible play. I guess we'll start in the the National League East since since that's where I'm starting my conversation. The Mets, as we know, have been in free fall, and Lindor, who earlier in the year was all over the fans a bit, maybe all over the fans is a bit of a overstatement, but he did make comments about the fans and booing him and during his poor performance. You know, this team has really fallen off the map. Another horrible loss yesterday. 2-8 in the last 10 games again. I mean, it seems like just last week, and maybe 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Mets and the great job that Rojas had done through the injuries and whatnot. And except for DeGrom, as guys have come back, they've played worse. And the Phillies got hot. We were talking about, well, how great the Phillies had done. And now in a week, or 10 days, the Phillies have fallen off the map, and the Braves, who I said by the way, don't forget, I picked the Braves to go to the World Series over the Dodgers and the Padres before the Giants were even in the conversation. So all year I waited for this team to play well. 9-1 in their last 10 games. They've taken a 5-game lead in that division. They've gone from like a 10% playoff chance to 80. Mets are down to 4.8% chance of making the playoffs. The Phillies, who were playing like gangbusters for 2 weeks, fall back to where I thought they'd be. Again, I'm not a Joe Girardi fan. I don't think anybody can stop the Braves either, Drew. I always thought, even with the injuries they've gotten out to Acuna, and they've had to a pitcher Ian Anderson's been out for a long time. I just think that they're the best team in that division. Still, the best overall team in that division is the Atlanta Braves. The Mets are having problems trying to get synced up. Well, they're running out of time. It's almost over. Now, I will say that I said a wild card could never come out of this division. It's still very unlikely, but it's come back into play a little bit because of the Padres' horrendous play over the last month, which we'll talk about in a second as well. What's else? These injuries are ridiculous. 67 roster changes is ridiculous. Is that really how many the Mets have? But you know what? Injuries are only part of the situation. Dominic Smith, his OPS is like I might be under 4. It might be under 500. Conforto's been terrible when he plays. Baez comes in here and plays okay, and then he gets hurt. I agree. The injuries are a problem. How about Alfonso? Not hurt. Injuries, yes, I get it. But everybody has injuries. How about the Yankees? The Yankees have had a spat of injuries and maybe they've helped them. a spat of injuries and COVID cases the last 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, at least 4 weeks is a month, Keith. But, they played better, as I said, without some of these pieces. Mets give up games in the first, yes, but they've also blown a bunch of games. There's a little hope, but not much. 40 games, you're, 6 games, 8 games out of the wild card. 8 games. No, not the last wild card, I guess. Yes. 8 games out of the last wild card spot. That's a lot of games to make up in 40, Carlos. Unless you go 32-8. Yeah, that bullpen's terrible. We knew that, though. These are all the problems we knew the Mets would have, and they were kind of masked with the great starting pitching they were getting early in the year with DeGrom, obviously before he got hurt, with Taijuan Walker early in the year. Stroman had pitched well. But their fortunes have gone downhill with DeGrom out, and I'm doubtful you may see him again. If this team doesn't right themselves before, he's healthy enough to pitch, then maybe they should shut him down. Let me change my banner here. What are we talking about now, guys? I got too many banners, and I can't get them in the damn right order, Anyway, that's what I see the Braves running away with this division now, as Drew just mentioned. It's too bad. Too much reliance on DeGrom, Walker, and Carrasco has not pitched well either since he's been back. Yeah, I guess he had a couple of good outings. His last outing was a little bit better, but still they lost the game. And Walker, I don't know what his issue is, whether he hit a wall. I know he has not pitched a ton of innings the last several years because of injuries and stuff. But, he needs to kind of right the ship a little bit. If this team's going to get back in the race, they need more than DeGrom coming back. So, again, if I'm the Mets, if they don't get it together, then maybe you shut DeGrom down. Moving on to the Central, the Brewers continue to roll. They now got a 7.5 game lead, even though the Reds are playing really good baseball and have moved into a tie now with the Padres for that second wild card. The first wild card is going to be either the Dodgers or the Giants. We thought all along early in the year it would be either Dodgers or the Padres, but the Brewers have played great. They got great pitching. Their manager, I think, is the best manager in the National League. I really do, in Craig Counsell. I've said that many times on this show. In the preseason, I did pick them to win this division. Whether they get through the playoffs, they don't score enough runs, but when you got the pitching staff that they have, it's entirely possible that they will jump up here. I'll just put Dave Guyette's comment up here for a second because it's kind of reiterating what I said. Injuries, they just aren't an excuse for losing. Everybody has them. You got to plan for them. Brewers are the class of the Central. Yelich just woke up. That would be a huge a boost for the Brewers if Yelich can get anywhere as close to his MVP caliber self. They needed a bat, and they still could bring a bat in here before the 31st. We still got a week and a half, not even a week and a half before the waiver trade deadline. It's not consistent. Well, this year he hasn't been, but he could get back together. This is a guy who until he got hurt, was the best player in baseball for 2 years, guys. At least 2 years, maybe more. Or one of the best players in baseball, because I know somebody will throw somebody at me. So anyway, the Brewers could be a tough out in the playoffs with that pitching staff. The Reds continue to surprise. While they're not going to catch the Brewers for sure, they're now looks like what are they? 11 games over 500, and as I said, tied for that last wild card spot. Cardinals have come back a little bit. They've lost their last 2, unfortunately. They had moved to 4 games over 500. They're still alive. Again, they're 6 games out of that last wild card. I don't think they're going to make it. got like a 3.8% chance. The Cubbies, obviously, we know are done, and the Pirates are the Pirates. Mark Mancini will be on, by the way, at 10:25. We won't be talking baseball today. We'll be talking NFC football, but Mark Mancini finds a way to put a positive spin on the Pirates, so he is one of the best Pirate fans you can come across, let me tell you. We're moving out to the West, so I'll put Drew's comment up there in a second. The Giants continue to surprise. The Dodgers are red hot, obviously, winning 9 out of their last 10. They've won 9 in a row, but they still trail the Giants by a game and a half. The Giants have gone 7-3 in that same time frame. I keep waiting for the Giants to falter, and they don't do it. I was on a podcast on Mancini Radio Thursday night with guys from San Francisco called Take a Left at Alcatraz, I think is the name of the show. I'll post it on my TGI Sports Talk page. I haven't had the opportunity yet. But we talked about, they're all Giants, huge Giants fans, and nobody saw this coming. They were all in the same boat. I thought Gabe Kapler's a bit out there. He's an ex-Dodger, so they weren't excited about him being the manager, but Dodgers have done just a tremendous job, as we talked about a lot this year. And the Padres are kind of in free fall. Their pitching has just been horrendous. Again, don't use injuries as an excuse. If Tatis has missed too many games, the trade deadline, they came away with Adam Frazier, but not enough else. They needed pitching, and they didn't get it. Drew's got a couple comments here. Dodgers will finally catch the Giants, but not by much. The trade for Scherzer and Turner will be the difference. I don't doubt that. Again, big 40 games, and you're trying to make up a game and a half in 40 games. Big difference than 8 games, right? Scherzer again pitched well yesterday. Scherzer is a gamer. He's a guy I love to watch pitch. Again, I talk a lot about how I don't like some of the things in baseball. One of them is the fact that pitchers aren't allowed to pitch deep into games, and the guys who get paid the most money don't pitch the most important part of the games. And Scherzer's on my short list of guys that I pay money to go watch and pitch, because they're not going to want to come out of games. They're going to throw strikes. They're going to challenge guys. Scherzer, Cole, DeGrom. I don't know how much further I can go. Burns and Woodward not Woodward. Woodward, right? With the Brewers. These are guys that I would pay money to go see pitch. In the old days, there was lots of them. Colorado. Look at Colorado's won 5 in a row. I'm a little shocked at this team. I thought they were going to be the same dumpster fire as Arizona was, or they may have been worse. But they've really they've hung in there, and they are playing some good baseball right now and hurting the Padres for sure. Good call, Drew. Woodruff, thank you. Jeez. Gosh, not enough coffee today. How are we doing on time? 9:58. Let's get to the American League. We talked about the East a lot already. We won't talk too much more about that. The Red Sox, I will talk about, have really fallen on hard times. 5-5 over the last 10. They went from about a 90% chance of making the playoffs to 68. They're still only, they're tied for that last wild card with the A's right now, and the Mariners are just 2 games behind that. I'm sorry, 4 games behind that. But they've really fallen on hard times recently, and some of their faults have been exposed of late. So the East is, and the Rays may still get in this yet. Every time, but they're 4-6 in their last 10, and every time I think they're going to make a little move. Springer was playing well, and I believe he's hurt again. But with that, they're still 6 games behind that last wild card spot, and they could sprint to the finish. I think they got the second best manager in that, maybe tied for best manager in that division. One of the better managers in baseball, but they don't seem to get over the hump. See what we got here. Deadline moves haven't borne any fruit yet. I agree. There's a few teams. I was gonna touch a little bit on some of those trade deadline moves, but I don't think we're really gonna have time today. I said it here, the Red Sox are a bust. You said it everywhere, Carlos. I picked the Red Sox not to be any good this year at all. I actually picked them to finish last. That's obviously not going to happen, but we'll see what happens going forward. The White Sox, moving to the Central, the White Sox running away with that division, 10-5. Again, this team was built. We knew they were going to win this, get to the playoffs, doesn't matter how well they do. This is a winner or bust season for the White Sox, hence having Tony La Russa on that team, managing that team. The Indians keep treading water, best they can do. They stay, they keep falling back further and further because they play 500 baseball. Tony Francona done for the year. I wouldn't doubt if Tony Francona is done for his career. He's had a lot of health issues over the last. He had someone who's with the Red Sox, and they've continued and maybe been worse during his time with the Indians. Great manager. The Tigers, as we've said, have really kind of overperformed, even though they're under 500 still, 7 games under. A.J. Hinch is doing a great job of building there with kids. And look at this team, maybe a couple years away yet, but they're heading in the right direction. The Royals, they've really gone in the toilet. And the Twins, as we know, are one of the worst stories in all of baseball. One thing I didn't touch on was, thought we had a long losing streak to talk about. Maybe it was the Pirates. The Pirates just maybe they broke it on Friday night. I believe they were on a 16-game losing streak. I didn't touch on that. I think it was the Pirates. I'm not positive. Moving, I got a couple comments here on the Central. Let's put this up. Drew says the El Centro White Sox are giving, everyone else just mailing it in now. I wouldn't say the Tigers are, actually. I think the Tigers will continue to play good baseball throughout the end of the year and maybe hurt some teams' chances as they play them going forward. You're talking about the White Sox, I think, Carlos. I may have missed a comment you had there. Nope, I guess not. The team is a good mix of I think you mean mix of youth and age. It is a good mix, but they're built to win now, not next year. I'm not sure how to comment on this because I don't know what you mean by lucky. Lucky in what sense? That the owner of the team wanted him to be the manager because he's one of the greatest managers in the history of baseball? Listen, I don't love Tony La Russa, but you can't take away the fact he's one of the greatest managers ever to manage. At his age, it's not often we see a guy not only manage that at that age, but come back after being out as long as he was. Lucky because he's done. He's got a team 10.5 games in first place. You cannot say the manager doesn't have anything to do with it. Can't. Tell me about Gabe Kapler. The Giants have way overperformed. I'm not a Kapler fan at all. I can't say Gabe Kapler has nothing to do with the Giants' performance this year. Some of the players have stepped up. Guys who are old started playing better. Had a little fountain of youth moment. They found a couple of pitchers off the scrap heap who've performed well. Well, they're not great players. Look at it. Managers have to get credit. They get credit when they lose, or they get blamed when they lose. Anyway. So you can tell me whether you think, what's the difference between Kapler and La Russa? You got to give them both credit. Whether you like them or not is irrelevant. Okay, we got the West. The Astros, 3.5 game lead now over the A's. They're going to make the playoffs, whether it's the division winner, which I think it will be easily, or a wild card. And they're going to be a very tough out in the playoffs. They improved their bullpen, obviously, at the trade deadline. And look at the A's. I think the A's will probably. I do think the A's will. I'm going to go out and say the A's will win that second wild card, but they'll go out in the first round of playoffs like they always do. Because the team, while by Moneyball works during the regular season, a lot of times, more often than not, what Billy Beane has done there has proven he can be a competitive team. They're not going to be able to get over the top in the playoffs because they don't have the dominant pitching. They don't have any dominant offensive players. Well, they have some dominant offensive players, but they don't have enough to really compete with the big boys when it comes to the playoffs. We go back to Carlos here. He should retire. He made a guy retire and perform worse. He made a guy retire. He didn't make the guy retire. The guy, first of all, this guy's been around for a long time. The guy you're talking about made retire. He didn't make him retire. He didn't like something he did and he called him out. That's what the manager does. You can agree with him or not agree with him. But this guy has obviously got a screw loose to begin with. He retires one day and unretires the next. This isn't a Tony La Russa issue. It's a Mercedes issue. Oh, how do you make him perform worse? I mean, come on. I don't buy any of that, Carlos. I'm sorry. Another ageism thing. Back to Drew. Oakland's making a push. Chapman's getting healthy, but the Astros have pitchers coming back, and their call-ups are doing really well. Look, the Astros are a really well-run organization. Say what you want. I've made a lot of comments here that I do not think in any way, shape, or form is was that sign stealing situation that big a deal, because teams have been trying to do that type of thing forever. They took it to another level. They're hitting the ball better than they did when they knew the signs. It is what it is. The Astros are a good team. They did need to do it. That's the shame of it. And now that'll taint them forever. And that's just too bad. So as I look on to what I want to talk about next, you guys, I'll finish up your baseball comments. I know we have a little lag. Seattle hanging tough. Look at it. I said all year that I thought the Mariners were a year away. They're hanging tough, though. As Drew said, they were 7-3 in their last 10 games. They could easily make a run at that last playoff spot, but that remains to be seen. Astros like the Patriots. Yep. Great teams that would have won whether they try to stretch the rules or not. You're right. Exactly right, Carlos. Yeah. Look, here's my problem with why I can't get excited about these things. And I say this all the time, so this is nothing new, and I hate to keep repeating myself. Anybody who thinks at all the teams in football and in baseball aren't trying to do the same things the Astros got caught doing and the same things the Patriots have done is kidding themselves. That's all. So let me move on. Real quickly, I do want to talk a little bit of the NFL stuff. We're going to have Mark Mancini on at 10:25-ish, I believe. I haven't heard from him, so I believe he will be on video with us today, so that'll be good. Couple of real quick, I want to talk about Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao fought last night. It's very interesting. I'm reading comments. So Manny Pacquiao's 42, soon to be 43. Loses his fight to to who? Oh boy, hold on. Who did he lose to? Ugas. I can't say his name. I'll never say. Yordenis Ugas, who was the reigning champion, and they call this an upset. Pacquiao upset by Ugo in a decision. Look at Manny Pacquiao's 42, 43, soon to be 43, 177 fights under his belt. Has had long stretches of retirement, and he's really done. And I kind of think this fight, to be honest with you, was as much about Manny Pacquiao getting ready to run for president of the Philippines as it was him trying to win the belt here. He's a great competitor, great boxer. Love Manny Pacquiao. Will take nothing away from him. One of the good things about boxing, which has kind of fallen off the map recently. But I think this was a move for him to try to get to the to get more publicity, like he needs it. Everybody in the Philippines knows Manny Pacquiao, right? Let's look at some NFL. Real quick on college football before I switch gears to the NFL. Just a couple quick things. Catch my show. We'll dive deeper into a lot of these topics. I'm only going to talk real quick about a couple things. So, number one, we know about the realignment. Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. Well, now the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC are looking to have an alliance. Don't know what it's going to look like yet, but this could be the whole landscape of the NCAA is going to change. The NCAA is looking to change their whole structure of governance, and they may not be the central organization running this. They may let the leagues have a little more say in the way things are done, and I think I'll back up here. He lost on the decision. I know, crap fight, but again, like I said, I think he's only fighting to get the publicity. Carlos, that's just my take on it. He'll be announcing his run for the presidency probably here in a couple of weeks. So what this alliance means, it's hard to know. They're not going to merge into one league, for instance, but there's going to be some scheduling alliances. It's going to go past football, and all of their Olympic sports will also be kind of aligned. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this hashes out. And I want to see how the news comes regarding this. There's also talk that the move for Texas and Oklahoma will get moved up. It won't be 2025. It's more likely to be, in the next year or two, because of the TV deals will be torn up and changed. Oh, thank you, Burrow. I don't think I have a banner for college football today. I'll change it to this because I'm going to move on real quick. I need a producer who could do this stuff for me. I can't pay much though. What was I going to say? So anyway, that's gonna have a big effect, on what happens with the college football playoff. There's talk that it may get put on hold now because all these teams that were so excited about it maybe won't be. There may be a change to the wild card rules so that the Super League like the ACC is not able, or I'm sorry, the SEC is not able to get 4 wild cards, let's say, plus their conference winner. So there could be some big changes afoot there. And the only other piece of news I really wanted to touch on is that Ohio State, in a little bit of news, and we'll elaborate more on this, C.J. Stroud has won the quarterback competition, at least for now, and will start the season opener ahead of Jake Miller and freshman Kyle McCord against Minnesota. That's actually a pretty big game on September 2nd. Minnesota looking to rebound from a really bad year last year, and they got one of the better coaches in college in PJ Flesch. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. But that's it for college football. Let's move on to the NFL. A couple of quick things I wanted to chat about quickly before Mark Mancini joins us, and we're going to focus on the NFC outlook today. As I said, we'll look at the quarterback situations for all of those teams. I'm going to give you my playoff picks, and with time allowing, we'll talk about. We should be able to have time to talk about some of the coaches on the hot seat there as well. Some news around the NFL. AJ McCarron out for the season, I think, with an injury last night. A little bit, and that's too bad. I mean, look, he's not going to be the starting quarterback there, but AJ McCarron's a good guy to have on your team, and it's a tough loss for whether he's out for the year or not is still up to debate, but we'll find out about that. The Ravens notched their 19th straight preseason win. Again, does it mean anything? Don't think so. But it is an interesting stat. I didn't. Well, I will talk a little bit about the preseason, Drew. Patriots blow out the Eagles. Eagles are not going to be very good. Sorry, Jamie Peggs. The competition at quarterback there is very, very close. And you'll get people telling you that Newton's ahead and Mac Jones is ahead. And to me, if Mac Jones didn't fall on his face, he should have been the starter. He should be the starter, but I got a bad feeling it's going to be Cam Newton to start the season. Don't want to see that, but they both played really well against the Eagles. The Bills blow out the Bears yesterday. I think Drew's got a comment here. Trubisky actually came back and played really well against his old team. And we're going to talk about this a little bit when I get with Mark Mancini, when we get to the Bears. Matt Nagy ruined Mitchell Trubisky. I think this guy's got a lot of talent. I think he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL somewhere again. And, I just think that you haven't seen the last of Mitchell Trubisky, and he'll be in this league a lot longer than Matt Nagy probably. The Jets win their second game in a row. As Drew has pointed out, the Wilson is a good story here. He played a lot of the game. Was 9 of 11 for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really well. 154 passing rating. You can't do much better than that. I think Cam was 151. I don't put a lot of stock in these things, but for young quarterbacks, it's important to get your footing and get some confidence. And again, if you're a Jet fan, don't get wrapped up in the stats, in the wins and losses. This team's not going to challenge for a wild card this year. This team wins 4 games, 5 games. That's good. Be competitive, and that's a win for you guys this year. Zach Wilson's going to have his moments where he's up and he's down, but this is a good sign for the Jets. Interesting enough, Michael Carter led the team in rushing attempts and yardage. Had a really good game, averaging 5 yards a carry. He's a guy I said was a steal in the draft at the 4th round. Great running back. The Jets did a great job getting that player. Roethlisberger, Drew talked about Roethlisberger. He did also play very well for the Steelers in a 26-20 win over the Lions. Again, not putting much stock in the score of this game, because I think the Lions are going to be awful. But the fact that Roethlisberger was 8 of 10, 2 touchdowns, again, big passer rating. I'm not a big Ben Roethlisberger fan anymore. He's gotten old and slow, but he still can play quarterback when he's healthy. Fields came back to earth. I like Fields. Fields is going to have some up and down moments. I'm not sure that he'll even start the season, and if I'm the Bears, I can't believe that I give the keys to this guy to Matt Nagy. I'm just shocked they didn't fire him. Corey Davis has emerged he was a very good wide receiver to begin with. Probably a really good pickup for the Jets. One thing I didn't notice, and I wanted to look at quickly, if I can get back to that box score, which I can't seem to do very quickly. Oh, I'm on the NBA. Where is that Jets box score? It doesn't matter because I don't care about the stats anyway. I like the way Moore is played. I think the Jets have the potential to have a really good offense. Their defense is going to struggle, especially with Lawson going out for the season. Huge loss. He would have been the leader of that defense. He was there the next day after rupturing his Achilles, cheering on his team, and I think that speaks volumes about some of the reasons they signed him. But again, it's a very good sign that the Jets, I believe you mean they've got a real quarterback now, Carlos, not need one. They do need one, and I think they've got one. Again, don't get wrapped up in wins and losses, guys. If you get disappointed with 4 or 5 wins this year and you're really competitive, you're not really being realistic about the Jets' chances this year. Big Ben, well, you know what? He's been the reason they haven't been competitive, I think, the last couple of years. A big reason. And I think the Steelers probably should have moved on, and Ben should have retired most likely. We'll see. What else you got here? Drew. Carlos has something. I thought Drew had something else. Guess not. Every time the Jets draft a quarterback, their lead defenders gets injured. Yeah. Well, big loss for the Jets, I have to say. One other thing I got to point out when it comes to the NFL, Floyd Reese passed away. I do want to touch on this before I talk about anything else. Floyd Reese, longtime GM in the NFL, the architect of the Titans Super Bowl team. They didn't win; they lost to the Rams by that much in '99, I believe. Passed away yesterday. I think it's 73 years old. So we send our condolences to him and his family. Great football guy, lifer, and a good football man. Larry Fitzgerald, interestingly enough, has said he doesn't have any, I don't know why this is news, right? He doesn't have any passion to come back and play in the NFL right now. Well, I don't know why that's news. That's why he retired in the first place. Yeah, great guy, Floyd Reese, great football guy. And he'll be missed. He was a long-time executive in the NFL. Did a great job. Trying to get to some of my other stuff here. What was I talking about? Oh, Larry Fitzgerald. Why is that a story? It's a story if he says he's starting to feel like I could play again. I mean, that would be a story now, wouldn't it? But not this. What else went on in the preseason? Patriots, we said, won. Chiefs, 17-10 over the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals a lot, which you're going to find out about when we talk with Mark Mancini in a few minutes. I like the Redskins. I did it again. How much money do I owe now? The team formerly known as the Redskins. Let me pull this down a little bit. I'm not really happy with that. Great. No, can't get it back up there. That's close enough. All right, guys. The team formerly known as the Redskins, I like that team here, which you're going to find out a lot about. The Bills, as we said, a roll over the Bears. The Bears look really bad. Jets beat the Packers, but the Packers played their third-string quarterback, I believe. So when you get too wrapped up in that, but a lot of good pluses come out of that game, as we said, for the Jets. The Dolphins, you know what? Another interesting team. Next week, we'll do our deep dive into the AFC. I like the Dolphins a lot. Again, quarterback play. There's so many teams, and this is not unusual. This isn't, earth-shattering information, but it's going to come down to the quarterback play for a lot of these teams and how well they do. The Ravens, as I said, they win their 19th straight preseason game. Don't know why that is interesting to me, but preseason games mean so little. So it means at the same time, it doesn't mean anything that they won 19 in a row, but it also shows they know that winning is important. Good point, Drew. I don't want to pass on that. Bill Freehan is another guy who passed away this week. Longtime all-star catcher for the Tigers. Probably the heart and soul of those Tigers teams in the 60s and early 70s that were they won World Series. They went to back. They won the World Series in '68. Made the playoffs a couple of times in the '70s. At least one time in the '70s when Bill Martin was the manager. Teams that were really kind of old by that time. But Bill Freehan, I think, was the heart and soul of that team. Very underrated catcher in the annals of baseball. Had a good bat for a catcher, at least relatively speaking, era-wise. What else? While we wait for Mark Mancini, what else did I want to touch on here? Guys, don't forget college football huddle Wednesday nights. You can catch it on replay as well. We're going to be diving into a lot of stuff here in a second with Mark when it comes to the NFC. Our predictions, kind of some quarterback outlook stuff. So I will take a comment from one of you guys. I'll take a topic from one of you guys if you got something while we wait on Mark. Not really, I can go down the rest of these preseason scores, but, are they interesting? The Titans beat the Cowboys. Big deal. Dak still hasn't played. Dak's getting healthy and supposedly on track to start the season opener. He's been able to throw a little bit in camp now. He was on a no-throw regimen there for a long time. Very interesting if you're watching Hard Knocks. Ezekiel Elliott has been the big star, I think, of the first two episodes, but they concentrate a lot on Dak. And Dak's I see Dak as a leader, a really good leader at that quarterback position, and they really need him. They're behind him is nothing. Dominic DiNucci's son there, Ben DiNucci. I don't believe he's Dominic DiNucci's son, by the way. But losing to the Texans is not good even in the preseason. They're 2-0. That tells you something about the preseason too. The Texans, who should be a dumpster fire, are 2-0. The Colts beat the Vikings. Vikings have not played well this preseason. Don't know how much it matters, Rick Sherlock, but we'll be talking about your Vikings here very shortly. Still no Carson Wentz for the Colts. Jacob Eason, who was with the Bills, I think, last year, former Georgia quarterback, played the bulk of this game and played fairly well. And Sam Ellinger played the rest of it. Very low average per pass attempt, though. Not a good sign for the offense there in Indianapolis. And the Raiders beat the Rams. I got some very strong opinions about the Rams as well, by the way. And then the Broncos beat the Seahawks. Don't know how much to put into that either. And then you got a couple games today, I believe. You got the Giants playing the Browns. Probably a bit of a grudge match with Odell Beckham playing his old team. Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones had a few back and forths in the media. So it'll be kind of interesting, I guess. 49ers and Chargers also play tonight at 7:30, and then tomorrow you've got the Jaguars and the Saints. Interesting game there with Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer trying to get that team headed on the right track, and then the Saints trying to figure out their quarterback situation without Drew Brees. And I think the Saints are going to struggle a bit this year. But time will tell. All right. Hopefully we'll have Mark Mancini in here in a few minutes. Trying to see if we got any other things I can touch on before Mark gets here. Let's just look at let's just look quick here at the NFL, since that's what I'm talking about. We can stretch a little bit. Oh, let's see. We talked about Floyd Reese. Great player. Fantasy football, not so sure I care so much about that right now. We're not going to get into a lot of fantasy here. I do belong to a fantasy league on I do a pick'em league with Drew. We'll do our pick'ems here. I'm not sure how we'll do it yet. I may, in the interest of time, I may have for you guys set up a site for you guys to make your picks. And then we can move that part of the show along a little bit. Fantasy football, I do belong to one that Dan Harris set up, who I appear with the show on every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Let's Talk New York Sports. I have a great time chatting sports with Dan. Dan's got a good show. Dan's a good host. He knows a lot about U.S. sports, especially New York City sports. He's a big Jets fan, and he was devastated by the Lawson injury. So we'll talk. We're going to talk a lot of AFC, as I said, next week with Mark Mancini. from Mancini Sports. I was hoping he'd be in a little early because I want to cover this entire NFC today. So I'm just scrolling, see if there's any other things I want to chat about. Jamar Chase is struggling a little bit in camp, and a lot of drops in games for the Bengals, which is not a good sign. I do believe the other wideouts that I liked a lot, Waddle's played okay in the preseason. Devontae Smith has played okay in the preseason. But Jamar Chase, who was the first one of those to go, has struggled quite a bit. I talked a little bit about the Patriots and their quarterback situation. They both played really, really well. And the running game for the Patriots has been amazing. Again, we're talking about preseason games, so we got to take it with a grain of salt, but we'll see what happens there. Patrick Surtain, guy the Cowboys loved and really wanted and really were put into kind of panic mode when the Broncos took him where they took him so early, has played really, really well in camp and played really, really, really well in their preseason games. Who else has played well? Well, there's Mark again. Mark might have a problem with the video. Hello?
Keith.
You there, Mark?
Keith.
Yeah, hang on a second. Can you not get in?
I can't. No, I can't get in the room. My wife's in the room, and I don't want to wake her up. But
No
I'm going home.
Oh, I see. Hold on. For some reason, I'm not getting you on
So
the.
I should have brought my laptop and everything out last.
Okay, well, next time you'll remember. So bear with me, guys, while I get Mark in the. I thought I hooked up my Bluetooth, but apparently I didn't. I want to get you.
Want to wake her? If I wake her, then
now?
Hey, it's Sunday.
Say something, Mark.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Why am I not hearing you, guys? Tell me if you can hear Mark at all.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3.
Yeah, I hear you on my phone, but I'm not hearing you in my headset for some reason. Let me reset this Bluetooth setting here.
Darn, I feel bad.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. We're fine. Got a pair. Cancel.
I tried to wait the last possible minute saying, can I get you up? Can I get you up?
That's okay. We don't want to wake your wife up. Jeez.
Well, next time. Put the thing out and everything so that way they don't have it.
I should have you in here. Are you talking now?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Are you there? Guys, can anybody hear Mark? You can hear
Testing.
Mark, but I can't. Well, that's awesome. Hang on, Mark. I must have a setting off here somewhere. Oh. How about? Oh, that's not
Okay.
it. They can hear Mark. I can't. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, it happens.
Well, let me try
Boy, what a
else.
weekend, man. I'll tell you. I'm getting out of here.
I
I'm
was
going
going to do this.
cover the Mets and Dodgers.
Now I can hear you. So, Drew, comment. Hang on. I was talking. I couldn't hear a word you were saying, so I was trying to. But they say they can hear you on Facebook. Okay. Drew, can you still hear him?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
It's funny. I got to hear you through the phone. I usually hear you through my headset. That's weird. No problem. As long as they can hear you.
Bluetooth on?
Yeah.
It should be on.
I think we're good. Something's messed up on my end. That's all right. As long as they can hear you, we're not going to worry about it. Yep, they can hear you. Okay, good. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, what would TGI Sports Talk be without technical difficulty here and there? So, Mark, thanks for joining me today. Let me turn this phone up so I can hear you a little bit. Hopefully, we don't get too much. I don't know. They could possibly be hearing you
I'll
through
tell
there.
you one thing. It's always a pleasure to be a part of the fast-moving network that's sweeping this country. It's the most must-see, must-hear radio show on Sunday morning.
Well, I am very happy to have you on every week.
Yep.
I'm worried because Drew says he's not hearing you as well right now. I don't know why. Try one last thing here. We disconnect that. Keep.
Well, come through hell or high water. I'll have that laptop ready to go next
Well,
with you. Everybody.
We'll get you, I promise.
Smartphone.
Something's messed up. I do not know why I'm not hearing you when I put you on the... Right? Wow, that's really loud. What's up with that? Not hearing you as well now. Now I don't hear you at all. I should have left it alone. Bluetooth off. Starting over, Mark, if you can hear me.
Testing 1, 2. I can hear you.
I know you can hear me. Let's try this one more time. We're going to turn everything off, turn everything back on.
Testing 1, 2.
Come on.
1, 2, 3.
Connecting. Why are you not in my headset? Still not in my headset. Wonderful TV.
Can you hear me
guys.
without?
Sorry.
That's okay. Can you hear me without the headset?
All right. Well, I'm going to have to go back to the...
Oh.
Going to have to go back to this and hope they can hear you okay. I'll keep my phone up closer to my mic. All right, Mark, let's get started here. So we're going to concentrate on the NFC. Oh, but welcome anyway, Mark Mancini from Mancini Sports. Sorry, I didn't even get to properly introduce you. And you guys...
Like I said before, and I'll tell you again, man, this is the show that's sweeping the country. It's the most must-see, must-hear radio show, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it with all you great guys.
Glad to have you, and I know my audience loves hearing you. And you guys can comment on the sound here one more time as I try to keep Mark near the microphone to make sure that we can hear him okay. Mark, where can we catch your shows real quick again? Give us a quick rundown before we jump into our stuff here.
Well, real fast, XM Sirius 203, 217 on Fridays on the Sports Byline. Part of KMET 1490 AM as we kick that thing back up on September 4th. Guys been on vacation and everything. You'll catch me on WWDB AM 860 out of Philadelphia starting September 30th. Part of a network out of Tampa, Florida coming up September 13th. So, and if I'm not doing any of that, I'm doing the Pittsburgh Pirates podcast Mondays and Fridays, 8:15 in the morning, my time, LA time that would be. So it'd be probably around 11:15, depending on what part of the country you're in to catch those things. You can catch the archives on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. And I'm so blessed to be a part of all these great guys and, you know, you're a great network and everything. And you guys just, you know, it takes a lot of people to move a village. And, you know, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, and I've had a great time being on the shows you brought me on. I had a good time with the guys from, what was it, Take a Left at Alcatraz? Left turn at Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was, you know, I joke that this is my stream of consciousness show. I mean, they are literally a stream of consciousness, man. We were all over the board, but I had a lot of fun with those guys.
Yeah, it's like a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Disneyland when you get on that thing, man. You got to brace yourself with maybe triple seatbelt action.
I hear you. Well, Mark, today you and I are going to jump into the NFC and kind of give us we're going to go division by division. Maybe a little quicker. Well, we can go a little past 11 if we have to, if you can. But I want to kind of look at the outlook for the divisions, maybe pick a division winner and look at maybe quickly at the quarterback situations, you know, give it a, you know, a quick A, B, or C or D rating. And some of them have a competition, some of them don't. And not as many competitions in the NFC as the AFC, I think, but there's a few. And next week we'll dive into the AFC. So let's jump right into it and look at the NFC East. And I will tell you right now that I think the best team in that division, based on the defense that they've built and the coach, who I think is really underrated, is the Washington football team. And it's all going to come down to their quarterback play, as it does in so many instances. But I think the Washington football team is the team that will come out of this division as the winner. What are your thoughts?
I'll tell you one thing. When you look at the Washington football team and, you know, the Washington Redskins since 1932, being a Pittsburgh guy, I've always loved the Redskins in the NFC. And I remember I was telling the XM guys a few years ago when they only won 5 games, watch out, this team's going to win the division next year. And they thought maybe I was on acid or, I was drinking a lot of Kool-Aid or something. But I said, you keep your eyes on these guys. Ron Rivera came in. They've always had good quarterbacks in Washington. You can go back to Sonny Jurgensen, Joe Theismann, and then, when you see the Mark Rippians, the Doug Williams, and then you had, the Kirk Cousins, and now they get, the guy in there with Ryan Fitzpatrick to kind of hold the fort there. So I like that. Their defense is probably one of the best. That front four has got to be the best in football. I mean, with Chase Young leading the charge.
Exciting player.
Yeah, and when you look at this team, they should have really separated themselves from the pack last year. And the problem is they couldn't beat the Giants. They lost to Carolina, and they backed in at the end when, the Eagles kind of, stumbled around there. So that's when you look at this moving forward, the Redskins will, open up with the Chargers. They get the Giants second week of the year. It's a tough schedule. They got Tampa, on my birthday in November. They get, they got to go to Buffalo. They go to the Raiders. So this is a tough schedule. But I think the Redskins will find a way to win this division when the dust is cleared.
Yeah, I think 10 wins, maybe even 9 wins, could win this division. So I think it's going to be a battle between them and the Cowboys. The Giants are still a little bit, they're building a really good defense there, and this is obviously a kind of an important season for Daniel Jones at quarterback, and whether he's going to be their future or not. And the Eagles, I just think, are going to struggle myself. So, and I'll give you quickly, I'm going to rate the quarterback situations in this division. Even with Washington being my pick, I think I'm going to give them a C at quarterback, because Fitzpatrick is, he gets off to a good start with everybody that he's with. I think Henneke will be the starter before the season's out for this team. The Cowboys, I'll give an A, assuming Dak is healthy. The Giants are at a C, and I got the Eagles at a D until Jalen Hurts shows me something.
Well, look at the Redskins and Fitzpatrick there. They're going to have an advantage in this division, because if you circle the last 5 games of the year, they're division games. So if you're 3 games back heading into that, you can kind of control your own destiny in that division.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for them. Their last 5 weeks, they could be within striking distance, or they can be, a game up and bury that division in the last 5 weeks. But, when you look at Fitzpatrick, I saw him with, Miami last year. He's a calming effect. He'll give you the wins, but you're going to still need another quarterback in there. I really thought Haskins was going to be a guy. Then I realized that anybody that comes out of Ohio State, now I'm going to trigger on the Columbus, Ohio guys, that anybody that comes out of that university just seems not to do anything in the NFL more than a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So, when you look at Jones, the problem with quarterbacks today is they rush them. We grew up with the Elways, guys like that, where they carried the clipboard for a year and then they were ready to go. Now, these organizations don't want to have too much time to do anything with them. They want to throw them right into the mix. And if they have no offensive line or anything and they get beat up, 2 years, this guy's out of here. And you're going to see that with a lot of these quarterbacks this year. And I know we're going to get into them. But I like Jones. I think this kid's a gamer. He spent the offseason in Arizona training and everything. He wasn't on a yacht in, San Marcos or any of these other, Cabo San Lucas. He was out there training, and I like the way this kid's makeup is. The Giants going to be tough. I think it's a 2-team race there. I'm going to give Jones a B. And then, as far as Kurtz goes, I like those Alabama guys. And I know, he hasn't shown too much, but if he can hook up with Devontae Smith there now, and get that Alabama, slammer connection going, keep your eye on him. Prescott, they're putting a lot of faith in Prescott after that injury. He hasn't played any exhibition games. He won't play any exhibition games. So who knows what the Cowboys is. I know every year this is a hype train with the Cowboys in Vegas. They either win the division or the Super Bowl, and I still can't figure out what Vegas is thinking. They must think Michael Irvin, Emmett Smith, and Foy Aikman are still there.
Well, I am going to say that I do believe that the Cowboys will get one of the wild cards in the NFC myself, but I don't think it's going to take a lot of wins. I think the NFC is going to be a lot of parity. I don't think you're going to see a team win 14, 15 games here. I really don't. Maybe unless it's Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, and I've been saying that from the get-go. I think Tampa's the bar, and then you're going to have a lot of teams kind of like in the mix. The Rams could be there, the Redskins could be there. Who else takes charge? Breeze is not in New Orleans now, and so it's going to be wide open. I think that the death march in the SEC is going to come out of that AFC. That's going to be the war.
That's a good call. I think there's a lot of good teams in that. I don't have a very good picture. I was trying to put a picture up here. It's not working out so good. So anyway, I usually had that ready to go when I know you're on the phone. So let's move on real quick to the NFC North. Now, a lot of variables here because the Packers have the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, and look there's still the class of that division in my mind. And I know one of my main viewers, Rick Sherlock, will disagree because he hates the Packers. He's a big Vikings fan, but I still think they'll win this division. And I think the Vikings, this is a make or break season, I think, for maybe Mike Zimmer, the head coach, and Kirk Cousins, the quarterback. I do think that they may eke out one of those wild card spots. And I just see the Bears going to struggle a little bit. Not a big Matt Nagy fan. A little surprised the Bears gave him the keys to Justin Fields after the way in my mind, he screwed up Mitchell Trubisky, who I still think will be a starting quarterback in this league. And then the Lions they're not going to win many games. Jared Goff is not a championship caliber quarterback, as we've seen. So I picked the Packers to win this division and the Vikings to come out of here with a wild card.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Let's start with the Lions first. I'm 59. I'll be 60 in a couple months, and I haven't seen the Lions have an A or B plus quarterback in 5 decades. They can say whatever they want about Matthew Stafford. He couldn't do anything. The Lions haven't won, I think, a division title since '91, a playoff since '93. So there's been a lot of lean years of people wearing bags in Motown over their heads going to Lion games. Yeah. So the Lions aren't going anywhere. Jared Goff, with the way he was picked number 2 or whatever, it doesn't matter. He's just going to finish out the string in Detroit. The Lions are a complete mess. And they got now a coach over there that's, talking about breaking kneecaps and doing this and doing that. If they, they're going to knock them down, bring them down, and all this stuff. So it's all rhetoric in Detroit just to sell tickets. As far as the Bears are concerned, I like Mitch Trubisky. And what I saw yesterday in that preseason game, watching it, he just lit them up like a drum in the first half. Hit 200-something yards. Be careful for what you wish for. You didn't want him there. You thought he was a has-been. He's going to be an adequate backup to, Allen in Buffalo. And when you look at the Bears, their defense is supposed to be their strength. Their defense was torched yesterday. They had that front line defense in for, quite a few plays, but they were just torched. Yep. So if you're going to rely on Andy Dalton, and I like Andy Dalton, but he's fell off ever since, he got rattled by Pittsburgh and, that division in Baltimore. So going to Dallas and coming up to Chicago now, it's just an afterthought. Justin Fields, everybody loves him now, but let's get some games in. Yeah. We'll find out what he is in the regular season. And as far as the Packers are concerned, I got to, go along with Sherlock there because I'm a big Viking fan on that side of the coin. I think the Packers are going to implode. I think the drama queen with Aaron Rodgers is, he's going to be out of there next year. I love the way Cousins was in Washington. I like the way he is in Minnesota. Zimmer to be, the guy out of there if they don't do something. But I like the makeup of the Vikings. I think the Vikings will find a way to win that division.
Interesting call. Interesting. I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan. That's my biggest deal there. I mean, I see that that quarterback situation as a C rating. I'm going to give the Bears a C until Fields showed something. The Lions is, a D, and the Packers, I'll give them a B because Aaron Rodgers is, with all his problems, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's just a huge distraction right now.
Right. Yeah, and that's the problem with Aaron Rodgers. If I was Green Bay, I would have worked the trade, shipped him to Denver or somewhere, maybe work a trade to get Russell Wilson into Green Bay, ship him to Seattle. Too much of a distraction, and now all of a sudden you're basically saying, well, really nothing happened during the offseason. Let's just have a kumbaya, roast some marshmallows near the fireplace, and we'll start the season in a few weeks.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
That lingering effect, it's almost, you can forgive, but you won't forget. And that's the problem that's going to be in Green Bay now.
The more I think about it, I'm actually going to flip-flop. I'm going to take the Vikings to win this division. I'm switching, and the Packers will sneak out a wild card and go out in the first round. Vikings got the best, I think, if he stays healthy, the best offensive player outside of quarterback in the NFC, and Delvin Cook, myself. I love that kid. Yeah. So that's it.
They got good, and they're tightening up, and, the Vikings, it's been tough. They've always started out like a bat out of hell, and they struggle down the stretch, it seems like. But hopefully they can flip the script this year. But, yeah, I like, Minnesota to win the division. And just to finish the last thought on Green Bay, you can tell a lot about a team that goes through adversity. And I think, Green Bay's not handling it well. They're just putting a facade on now, or a Halloween mask to mask the real problems here. The first sight of trouble. Remember, they're going against that AFC North division, outside that division in the AFC, and that's going to be a death march in that division when you got to play the Pittsburgh's, Green Bay's, and Baltimore Green Bay's, and Cincinnati and Cleveland Green Bay's. That's going to be interesting.
It will be interesting for sure. Let's move on to the South, and to me, this is, a one-team story right now. The Buccaneers, have brought pretty much everybody back. Everybody that really matters. And, Tom Brady has still got some fire left in his tank, and he finds ways to kind of motivate himself based on what he perceives as disrespect from other people. He always finds a way to do it. And this is the one team in the NFC that I can see winning, as many as 14 games. They're going to run away with this division because I don't see anybody else finishing 500, to be honest with you. The Saints quarterback situation is not good. I don't think either one of those guys is a kind of guy who's going to bring you to a playoff caliber team. The Falcons have tried to improve their team a little bit, but I don't think it's enough. And Matty Ice is moving up in age, and I just think that team really needed to start over, and they probably should have moved Ryan in the offseason. I like what the Panthers are doing. Interestingly enough, I was watching a post game with Matt Rule last night, and the fans' comments were just brutal towards Matt Rule. I like Matt Rule a lot, and I kind of like what he's doing here in Carolina, but he's still a year or two away from being able to compete, I think. What are your thoughts?
Well, and when you look at, I like Carolina, I like Sam Darnold a lot. I've always liked him. I think the bright lights of the big city of New York now will be an advantage in Carolina. When you look at the Falcons, they lose a Julio Jones at the game that, Pitts in there. They got some guys, man. The tight ends are great. If Matt Ryan can have a banner year, I think the Falcons can keep it close. Not to take out Tampa by any means, but just to kind of be within striking distance of a playoff run there, and competing with some of these other teams that are going after the playoff run. Because like I said before, the Buccaneers are the bar of the NFC. As far as the Saints, I like you a lot. It's going to be interesting. Breeze left them, and that was it. Now. It's kind of like, when DeGrom got injured with the Mets, switching gears here, the Mets have done a free fall. That's what's going to happen in New Orleans. This thing should have been really thought out. Maybe I'm going to leave in a couple of years or whatever, and you kind of gear towards grooming a quarterback there, but they haven't really done it. And now they're throwing two guys in the mix. Thank God their coach is an A-plus winner there. He might try to do something to keep it close, but I like the Bucks, the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers to pull the division out.
Yeah, I see the Buccaneers is the only team coming out of this division with a with a playoff spot. Obviously, when we look at the quarterback situations in this division, obviously the Buccaneers are an A.
Right.
The Saints, right now, I can't give the Saints maybe a C minus. Falcons are a B because Matty Ice is, one of the more underrated guys. He has never been surrounded with enough talent. And Drew Ehrlich mentioned their Falcons defense just forever just seems to let them down. And even when they had a defensive coach, and the Panthers, I think, are just a year away. And their quarterback situation, I'm going to give a C, but I really think Sam Darnold may have a rebirth here in Carolina. So that could change in a hurry, that rating.
Well, not only that, I think the Falcons need to bring back their red helmets with the black bird on it and get rid of the other ones. Maybe that'll give them that Barkowski, William Andrews type of thing, flavor there, and Dan Reeves and all those guys. But Falcons got to do something to change the culture there in Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to the West, I know we're going to have some, maybe. I think we're going to have some disagreement here because I am not sold on Matt Stafford being the Rams' savior, to be honest with you. The Patriots were interested in him at one point, or there was talk about them being interested in him at one point during the offseason. And I was not necessarily in favor of that because I think we've had Matt Stafford play for this team before in Drew Bledsoe, who was a really good quarterback, and so is Matt Stafford, but they were not guys who get you to the promised land. And I think Matt Stafford falls in that category. And I think McVay is, putting all his, putting all his marbles here in the middle of the table with all his chips in the middle of the table. I just mixed my metaphors something terribly. All his chips in the middle of the table with Stafford, he could put himself in jeopardy here if it doesn't work out. The Seahawks, again, are going to go as far as Russell Wilson takes them, and they just have not added enough weapons on offense, and he's asked to do too much. The team that I like a lot and I think will surprise and win this division, assuming their defense is improved, is the Cardinals. And I think they're going to win this division. The 49ers will struggle as they try to figure out what to do with their quarterback situation. Jimmy G is going to play. Trey Lance is going to play. And I just think until that situation gets hashed out, they're going to struggle a bit. The other thing with the Rams that I'll mention, them losing Cam Akers for the season was just a huge loss for them. So I do not see them even getting into the playoffs, to be honest with you. I've got the Cardinals winning and the Seahawks getting a wild card here.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The prognosticators say this is the toughest division in football. I don't know if it's because maybe the NFL networks in their backyard here of Hollywood or whatever, but I don't know what the love fest is with saying this is the best division in football. I don't have it as the best division in football. And, I'm going to, wave the flag in the back corner here saying it isn't. Because when I think about it, the AFC North could be the best division in football with some good young quarterbacks and veteran leader over there and everything. But we'll get into that next week. But when you look at this division, McVay has pushed his chips all the way to the center of the table. He's all in. And if they don't do anything, which I don't think they'll do anything, McVay is going to be looking for a job next year. Because now he got what he wanted. He got his own quarterback. He didn't draft, Jared Goff. That was Jeff Fisher's project.
Right.
So when you look at, McVay, he's putting a lot of stock into Matthew Stafford. He didn't do really nothing in Detroit as far as I was concerned. This team wasn't a world beater in that division. They sustained something to a certain extent, but that was it. So with losing Cam Akers, they have no running game now. Now you got to justify, dinks and doinks pass. And the Rams have lost a lot, in that secondary too. So it's going to be interesting to see what this team does. Yeah, they open up with the Bears, which will probably smash the Bears. But you start to look in that, down the line, they get Tampa at home. They got to go to Baltimore. You got, some interdivision games. Well, I'll be seeing the 49ers tonight. They're playing a preseason game against the Chargers. It's going to be interesting. I think, this is a team where when you look at Lance, he's had some good games and everything in the preseason and stuff. But you know what? They should have done something with Jimmy Garoppolo here. They should have went after the tight end that came out of Florida there. If they were going to, not trade Garoppolo, why would you draft another quarterback there? Now you got two quarterbacks. Unless one goes down, the other one's going to step in. You didn't draft Lance to sit on the bench and hold a clipboard. So I don't know what the 49ers are going to do. I just think it's a far cry since they got into that Super Bowl and they haven't really, figured out how to get back. Arizona, I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy. I think he's too small to see those defenses and everything. Yeah, he threw the Hail Mary to beat Buffalo last year, but, I think the word out of Arizona, and I'm getting it, is, this could be a make-or-break year for Murray, and Kingsbury there. So,
yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Those two guys could be on the block. I get Seattle winning this division because as long as Russell Wilson's there, as long as you have Pete Carroll there, they'll figure out a way. And you looked at Russell Wilson in the beginning of last year, he was on fire. He just kind of wore out towards the end. So if they can kind of work that, balance there, I think Seattle is going to be taking this division, and it's three teams trying to fight to see what they can do to finish second place.
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of comments that I see here. Drew Earl, he agrees with you that Murray has yet to fulfill his promise and needs to make fewer mistakes and make better judgment. I think Murray's going to take that step forward this year. That's why I like the Cardinals. And interestingly enough, Carlos Chavez, who he and I rarely agree on anything, he thinks the LA will fall. Old players, overrated coach. Seattle and Arizona will compete for the division. Now I know I'm probably in deep water. If Carlos and I are agreeing, I probably don't know what I'm talking about.
What it is, the sometimes you live off your hype. I know up here in Los Angeles, the Dodgers are a hype train. They've won 9 in a row, but you're 47 and 14 against teams under 500. Teams over 500, you're 2 games behind the Mendoza line. So, when I look at the Rams, I look at the Rams as the same way. It's a big hype train. Everybody gets excited. Yeah, I know you're the number 2 team selling merchandise across the country. That's all well and said and done and all that. But you know what? Your football team hasn't done nothing in quite a few years, and you haven't won a title in this town. You almost had a chance to beat the Steelers in 1979-80 there, but you couldn't do that. So it's going to be a lot of years. And let's face it, when I look at Ram quarterbacks going back through the years, just give me back Vince Ferragamo.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I love Vince Ferragamo. That was the guy. You can have all the Rhodes Scholars there, and Pat Heaton, James Harris, all those guys. Just give me Vince Ferragamo. And you talk about guys in the middle of a pack. I would take Drew Bledsoe any day over the week over Jim Everett or Matthew Stafford or some of those guys.
Well,
Jim Everett.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. As a Patriot fan, I'm a huge Drew Bledsoe fan, but again, he just could not he wasn't enough to get this team over the top. That's how I see Matthew Stafford.
Well, that was the problem. I think I remember that game, watching it when the Steelers knocked them out. Brady stepped in and Brady, got them in the second half
played well
to beat them in Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you one thing. I always tell people in Pittsburgh, if the Patriots are coming to Pittsburgh for an AFC championship, let's just not show up at Heinz Field.
Well, I'll tell you what, as far as the NFC champion, it's hard not to take the chalk in Tampa Bay with everything I see here. But I think that it's possible the 2 surprises that you may see make a run at knocking them off in the playoffs could be the Redskins and that great defense, if they have enough offense, and even Arizona, if they take the steps ahead that I just talked about. Who do you think see coming out of the NFC?
Well, I think Tampa's there, and I love the Redskins. I think the Redskins played them tough in that playoff game last year. Just experience factor. You got to lose to win. So I think that could carry over. I'm telling you right now, I think the NFC Championship game will be Washington and Tampa, and that'll be for the marbles to see who comes to SoFi Stadium in February.
I can see that happening myself. That's a good call. And as far as coaches on the hot seat, I wanted to chat real quick about, because we're a little bit over, but I want to touch on this, and we've touched on some of these guys already. We talked about McVay being on the hot seat. If this doesn't all work out, he could easily be out of a job. Cliff Kingsbury, as you mentioned, and I have got him down too, even though I think they're going to take that step ahead. If they don't, he'll be in trouble. Mike McCarthy's, Cowboy coaches are always in trouble if they don't win. Matt Nagy, to me, I should have been out last year. What do you think about those guys, and who else would you add to this list?
I'll tell you one thing. If you look at the NFL, I'm partial to all those Pittsburgh boys. I think if you look at the NFL, out of all the teams, 11 of them have Pittsburgh roots. 11 coaches have Pittsburgh roots, if I'm not mistaken. Might be 10, but that's a lot of guys getting some knowledge in the Keystone State. So even around the Philadelphia area and everything, I like McCarthy a lot. Just there's nothing to work with there until they try to figure out if Prescott can take the next step and get these guys going there. But I think McVay, I think he called it there. I think Zimmer's another one.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer.
Nagy could be another one in Chicago. I think, they just, especially if Trubinsky can spell Allen, if Allen has, goes down with an injury and then Trubinsky has a big year, that's all going to point back to the way he was handled in Chicago. I think when you look at it, I think, if you bring up Kingsbury, yeah, there's about 5, 6 over there that could be on the hot seat there. Chicago, Minnesota could be looking at one. Arizona, who knows? How long you put up with Shanahan out there in San Francisco too.
Good point. I think he gets a little pass because of the Trey Lance thing. I think he'll get a couple of years to develop him, but. Carlos mentions LaFleur. I had LaFleur on my original list and I crossed him off. Do you think he's possibly on the hot seat in Green Bay?
I think what's going to save him is the drama in Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers and that thing has come to the forefront. So I think he's going to get a pass because if the Packers don't do nothing, they're going to blame it on, we had the drama situation and days of our lives here in Green Bay on a nightly basis. So I think LaFleur might get a pass on it. And then when, Rodgers is out of there at the end of the year, then all eyes will be on LaFleur if he can't do anything with this Green Bay team.
Great stuff. Good stuff. I think we covered a lot of ground here. Yeah. We went a little over because of our little technical difficulties, so thank you for bearing with me. I probably should have had the Bluetooth ready in case you had a problem. No,
I want to get the thing clean shaven next Sunday. I'll be raring to go, man. Get the thing out before we'll wake the wife up and ready to tear up the most interesting and greatest sports network that sleep in the country on Sunday mornings, man. It's the grind, baby.
The grind. I got the stream of consciousness and you got the grind. So we're doing both, man. I get all over the place. That's why I got the stream of consciousness thing. But I found out I'm not the most all over the guys. Like the Alcatraz guys, man, I had a blast with them, but they cover a lot of ground.
They were asking about you. I said, yeah, okay, we'll get them back on there again.
Well, I'm glad they had fun. I did.
Man, I'll tell you, they're almost like a tugboat in the middle of the ocean, minus the oars and everything. Just don't know if it's going to the north, south, east, or west.
We did have a lot of fun. Listen, Mark, thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you next Sunday, and you have a great Sunday.
God bless you, my friend. Thanks to the great listeners and everything to make this thing possible with you. I can't wait till next Sunday, my friend.
Me too. Thank you, Mark. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Mark Mancini. No idea, by the way. Oh, Jesus. What the heck? Why is that so loud? Oh, I turned that up. That's why. I had to take my headset off because I couldn't understand why I wasn't hearing him so good because I had my headset on and he's on the phone. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming in today. Thanks, Carlos and Drew, Rick Sherlock, Billy Pulver, Dave Guyette. If I'm missing anybody here as I'm scrolling through the comments, I apologize. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate you coming on. We'll get to more of your comments, I promise, as we get back to our more normal model, I guess, on Sundays. Mark will be joining us every Sunday at 10:30 for the most part, but we won't have necessarily shows from it every week. But please, guys, these are really, that's why I brought them on, because I am really excited about the shows that Northeast Streaming Sports will be bringing on exclusively on the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed there, it's free to get on there. Get on there and watch it. You can watch our shows there as well. We don't get the viewers there for some reason, but we don't promote the YouTube. I don't know how to do it. So I really focus on the Facebook, but the network really wants to focus more on YouTube. That's why we're bringing these 2 new shows. Start Spreading the News with Dr. Paul Semendinger and also Dr. EJ Fagan. That'll start on August 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and also J and B talking shop. Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat, both former NFL players, and they're going to have a great show as well. So I hope you guys will check them out. I thank all of you. I thank all of the groups that let me show this. And guys, join me Friday when my guest will be Paul Bosch. Philip Bosch. I had a Paul on my mind. Philip Bosch, who is the author of a book called Dog Days. The book has been out for a long time, and it's about the Yankees' down years between 64 and 76. I'm excited to talk to Phil on Friday. We'll see you guys later on. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week. We'll see you Wednesday night, by the way, with the college football huddle as well. See you then. Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. I am out.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any